Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome everyone to day 2 of the Future of Islamic Fintech, Islamic Fintech Week 2020. My name is Ahmed Sabri, and I am the moderator today, coming to you from Bahrain. And alhamdulillah, we are happy to go on our second day for this international event. The first day was a great success. We had we had in the hundreds of participants from around the world, from Amsterdam, from Kenya, from Malaysia, from Turkey, from around the world. And we'd have insights from various thought leaders in the industry of Islamic Fintech. And today we will continue with that as well. So, alhamdulillah, we have a great list of events and presentations for you today. And I will start off today by introducing our keynote speaker, who is Mr. Masumi Hamahira, the ambassador from the Bitcoin Association Malaysia. And he will deliver a keynote presentation on enterprise-grade blockchain for Islamic finance. So without further ado, Mr. Hamahira, please come to the stage or come onto the platform to deliver your presentation. Welcome.
Okay, thank you for your kind introduction. My name is Masumi Hamahira, Ambassador to Malaysia from Bitcoin Association. Today, I would like to share the very interesting slide with you. Let me upload. Okay. My slide is now available?
Yes, it's there. Yes.
Okay. Agenda enterprise-grade blockchain for Islamic finance. Thank you. First of all, I would like to throw this question to ladies and gentlemen. Do you know who is the inventor of blockchain? The answer is Satoshi Nakamoto. Have you ever seen this white paper of Bitcoin? Actually, he is a super inventor of Bitcoin and public blockchain. Actually, I would like to share the history of Bitcoin blockchain. So actually, the first Genesis block was executed 3rd January 2009. Actually, Satoshi Nakamoto insert this very interesting news, which at the Times in UK mentioned Bank of England news after Lehman shock, because Satoshi Nakamoto would like to prove he didn't play mining, and then as a record, he placed this interesting news. So why he named Satoshi Nakamoto as the inventor? One of the view is he respects Tominaga Nakamoto, who is recognized as Adam Smith in Japan. Another view is, as I mentioned, I'm from the Tokyo, Japan. Satoshi Nakamoto may love Japanese animation, which is Pocket Monster. This main character's boy name is Satoshi in Japanese, but in English, Ash. Ash indicates phoenix from Lehman shock. This is one of the very interesting view. Okay, let me introduce who is Bitcoin Association. Bitcoin Association is a global industries organization for Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. Bitcoin Satoshi Vision is following the Satoshi Nakamoto's original protocol. And then Bitcoin Association is working with merchants, application developers, service providers, entrepreneurs, miners, others in the Bitcoin SB ecosystem, advance the growth of BSB commerce. Okay, let me share what is going on and globally. Now, patent war in blockchains are happening. So please see this bar chart. This shows the number of the patents. A top player is N-Chain, which is based in London. Another competitors, major competitors, MasterCard, IBM, and Alibaba. So after the internet age, many people are thinking blockchain age will come. So that's why there are a lot of patent war is happening now. So let me share the feature of Bitcoin SV blockchain. And then first, public. And the second one, transparency and auditability. Third one, the immutability. Fourth one, and fast and low cost. Fifth one, privacy and with traceability. This is a very interesting and feature in Bitcoin SV blockchain. So, previously, 30 years ago, there are big argument, public internet versus private internet. So, many big organizations prefer public internet, private internet, because they worry about the information security. But, as you know, public internet won, because if you use a private internet, there are a lot of protocol, so they cannot connect each other. So that's why public internet won. So similar thing is happening now, repeating again now. Now there's argument and controversy between public blockchain versus private blockchain. So I think public blockchain will be adopted from all over the world because we need to share only one global protocol like internet. Okay, so in internet there's a global protocol, what we call TCP/IP. So Bitcoin also similar function. Okay, there's a misconception of a public blockchain. So first of all, when we talk about our public blockchain, they worry about no privacy. But actually, we can use very safeguard privacy using privacy technology, and then we can secure the privacy as well. And actually, blockchain can be regulated by government as well. So, public blockchain can work with proper governance and regulation. Next one, scaling. So let me introduce Satoshi Nakamoto's view. Bitcoin public blockchain can never hit a scale ceiling because Satoshi Nakamoto expects the human being can improve internet speed. However, no ceiling. So this is his view. Let me share the massive scaling status. So actually, Bitcoin SV scalability can be beyond with a credit card. Then in 2021, we introduced a Teranode project, and then Bitcoin SV scalability will pass with a credit card. Actually, Bitcoin SV's fee is quite cheap. Please see this figure, very, very cheap. Stability. So why we can enjoy the internet? Because TCP/IP protocol is very stable. So while Bitcoin SV blockchain introduced very stable protocol, and then we set in stone. So that's why many enterprises can enjoy to use public blockchain, namely Bitcoin SV blockchain, with good stability. Please see the Bitcoin SV's public blockchain scalability and speed. So, authorization speed is only 1 second, while Visa will take only around 1 to 3 seconds. So let me share the Bitcoin SB's capability, and then let me show the comparison Bitcoin SB blockchain and other major blockchains such as Ethereum, Hyperledger, and Arbitrary Coder. So please see that throughout capacity, actually Bitcoin SB's transaction per speed shows 2,800, while Ethereum shows only 15 to 20 TPS. So Bitcoin SB scalability and speed is quite excellent. And then actually Bitcoin SB blockchain can introduce smart contracts like Ethereum. Many people are not aware of such a function, but actually it is available. And then let me show the several case study. There's Unisot. This is a startup to introduce Bitcoin SB blockchain for their supply chain management. So when they buy and sell seafood, so they can record where the fish come from and where the fish will reach. And then they can record, and they cannot change the record. So they can enjoy the good governance and the stability and the traceability. So a consumer can enjoy the good, tasty seafood without any concern. So let me share the esports. So now there are a lot of esports are coming in the picture. So why the company introduced esports on Bitcoin SB blockchain? Because pro esports player need to compete with fairness. So, but once they have a cheating on the Bitcoin SB blockchain, they cannot tell a lie. So if they make cheating, so everybody can find out this professional player actually misconduct. Okay, actually this game introduced many items such as Japanese sword and then good shield. So let's say my son also loves such a game so much. And then if my son gets a more strong sword, Japanese sword, he doesn't want to use old sword anymore. So they would like to sell. But when my son sell Japanese sword to counterparty, he need to worry about counterparty risk. Because even though my son passed the Japanese sword to counterparty may not pay the money. But once we introduce Bitcoin SB blockchain with atomic swap, we can eliminate counterparty risk. Okay, let me share the basic blockchain feature. So when we use blockchain, we need to introduce such a very complicated password. Once we lost those one, we cannot recover. But now Bitcoin SB blockchain startup in China, what we call Bolt Wallet, they introduce threshold signature. And then this technology eliminates no private key, and then they introduce Face ID. It is much easier for everybody to use a public blockchain with this technology. Now, let me share how can we use Bitcoin SB blockchain to Islamic finance. Let me share the agenda 1. So, when Islamic finance player organize Islamic finance, interest is prohibited under Islamic law. So that's why we need to execute commodity transaction. So this is additional cost compared to conventional financing. So this is our common headache in Islamic finance industry. And then we need to handle so many commodity transactions, so operation burden is very heavy. So solution is like this. We can tokenize commodity and cash on Bitcoin SV blockchain. And then we can introduce on-chain swap via smart contract. So we can eliminate counterparty risk. And then we can enjoy the very cheaper platform and running cost. So this is very reasonable. Agenda 2, this is quite important agenda in Islamic finance industry. Sequence of commodity transaction. Under Islam, we cannot sell commodity before we own to comply Sharia, namely Islamic law. So first, a bank will buy the commodity from the market, and then in the second step, bank will sell the commodity to customer and then receive cash. And then finally, in the step 3, customer will sell a commodity and then receive cash. This is a financing function. So step 2 must happen after step 1. But if we use the public blockchain, we can optimize unspent transaction output, what we call UTXO. Sequence should be handled in the proper manner. Another agenda. So, Bank Negara Malaysia introduced Sharia governance guideline. So all Islamic banks need to organize Sharia audit. So in Sharia audit, we need to check sequence of commodity transaction. But actually, Sharia audit burden is very heavy. And in addition, person in charge can amend the record later manually. But this will cause non-Sharia compliance. Okay, let me share the solution. So once we record everything on Bitcoin SV blockchain, so Bitcoin SV blockchain is immutable and honest result function. So everybody can trace the sequence of the record later, and person in charge cannot amend the record on purpose. So after we introduce a Bitcoin SV blockchain to Islamic finance, Islamic finance will be more Sharia compliant, more beautiful. Okay, let me share another common agenda in Islamic finance industries. I'm talking about sukuk, capital market. Actually, settlement platform is different by currency. US dollars sukuk settlement is different from the settlement platform of Malaysian ringgit. And then infrastructure maintenance cost is not cheap. And then we need to think about anti-money laundering and then settlement risk as well. Once we talk, this is a solution. If we introduce tokenized sukuk and on-chain swap, we can settle everything. So platform will be global standard, and then running cost will be cheap. And then investor can enjoy immutable record and traceability. And then investor and trader need not worry about the counterparty risk anymore. So Islamic capital market can grow more with Bitcoin SV blockchain once we apply. Thank you so much. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
For your presentation.
Yes.
We appreciate your time.
Yes. This is the end of my presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we've done pretty well on time. So far, we're checking for questions, but I think so far, I think we haven't received any questions. So from that point, hopefully everyone was pleased and satisfied and enlightened as well on the deeper aspects of blockchain and the history of Bitcoin, as you have presented, Mr. Masumi. I think people can get more information about Bitcoin and blockchain from the Bitcoin Association of Malaysia. And hopefully you will be available to answer any questions that our participants may have in the future.
Yeah. Yes. We are quite happy to work with any entrepreneur and academician and banker and developer. So we are looking forward to meeting with those audience to collaborate furthermore. Thank you so much.
Inshallah. Thank you very much. We appreciate that, and thank you for being with us today. Okay. And with that, inshallah, we will move on to the next panel. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And let's see. Okay. So now our next panel is a Malaysian perspective. How can the industry play a role in promoting innovation and growth in the Islamic fintech space? So we will have 4 panelists for this session. I hope the slides are removed by now. Okay. We'll have four panelists for this session. Our moderator will be Mr. Tang Mun Wai, Head of FinTech at IMDEC, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. I hope he's here with us. Are you here with us, Mr. Tang? Can you hear me?
Assalamualaikum Mas Sabri.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Okay, I can hear, but I don't see the video. So while we work on that, oh, yes, I'm looking for your video. Okay. So let's go through our list of panelists. For this panel, we have Mr. Muhammad Rizwan Abdulaziz, President of FinTech Association of Malaysia. Okay. We have Mr. Tang Mun Wai, Head of FinTech at Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, IMDEC. Okay, I think I can see you now. Thank you. Mr. Adam Hilmi, CEO at Hey Alfred. And we have Mr. Muhammad Ayman Muhammad Salmi, Director Principal Consultant at Tawafuk Consultants. So I believe we are waiting for 2 more of our panelists. Okay, Mr. Adam Hilmi, can we get a quick mic check?
Can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes. Mr. Tang Mun Wai, can you hear me?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. If you can please make your microphone a bit closer because your audio is a bit low.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Okay, all right.
Brother Rizwan, is everything okay with your audio? Can you just...
Yeah, can you hear me good?
Yes. Okay, it's good. Loud and clear. All right.
Thank you.
Just a request. Well, we will pass to our moderator in just a moment. But to the other speakers, please try to keep your mics muted while the other person is speaking so we can avoid any echo. And if anybody accidentally drops out, just remain calm. They should pop back in after a few moments. I think we're just missing one person, which is Mr. Muhammad Ayman. If you're here and you haven't turned on your camera, Mr. Muhammad Ayman, please turn on your camera to join us. Just a moment, please. Okay, well, we will give him a chance to join, but at the same time, we're not going to hold up the session because we have enough to get started. We have our moderator and we have 2 out of 3 of our panelists. So let's not hold up the audience. Everyone is eagerly waiting to hear you guys get started, and the chats are moving. So let's go ahead and move forward. So Mr. Tanmunwai, I will pass the digital microphone over to you, and I will let you guys get started with the panel. Okay?
Thank you.
Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Good afternoon or good morning or to wherever you are. Welcome. Today we're going to have a session regarding on a Malaysian perspective. So how industry can play a role in promoting innovation and growth in the Islamic fintech space as per se. My name is Tang. As Encik Ahmad has just mentioned, I head the fintech divisions in MDEC. And to me, I have Encik Rizwan, who is representing the industry. And I also have Adam, who is one of the startups who is going to tell us more about the ecosystem, what roles he can play. Of course, we are waiting for Aiman. He'll be joining us as and when. And just for beginning to start it off, let's just allow me to introduce, or maybe we let the panels themselves to introduce themselves. What are they involved in at this moment? We'll start off with Rizwan.
Thank you, Mr. Tang, for handing over the microphone to me. My name is Muhammad Rizwan Abdul Aziz. I'm currently the president for the Fintech Association of Malaysia. We represent quite a few number of fintech players, from startup to mature organization, including banks and payment gateways and many others. And very happy to be here to hear out and discuss together whatever ideas and concern that either the panelists or the participant would love to know, especially about Malaysia fintech industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Encik Rizwan. Next, we're going to introduce ourselves to Adam. Adam, let's give us some background about yourself.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Very honored to be here, of course, as one of the speakers here from Malaysia and representing the startup community. I think, so for those of you joining us from, everywhere else, maybe I'll just give you a short introduction of what Hey Alfred is. Essentially, we are a platform, a money management platform, in fact, where we can automate all your banking accounts and sync them all into one platform. Now, what we then do is essentially provide the users with some kind of financial insight or recommendations that help them better their financial health and their financial standing as a whole. So our agenda with Hey Alfred is what we're trying to champion here is essentially the idea of financial literacy and how that's very much important in to cultivate a thriving fintech ecosystem. So. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Adam. So let's just start the whole session, the whole panel. Let's get to some informal discussions, all right? From the overall landscape that is happening to Malaysia, for all our audience out there who doesn't know much about Malaysia, what's the first thing that you think that comes to your mind that how do we attract, what do you want to talk about when it comes to fintech in Malaysia? We'll start with you, Rizwan.
Thank you, Tang. I think I would want to share a little bit about what we have gathered in terms of the landscape, better understanding, and I think we let me share my screen.
Is the camera on?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
No, that's nothing yet.
Yeah, it's going to take a while for it to come.
Well, in the meantime, Ayman has joined us. Welcome. Ayman, can you hear us, Ayman?
Can you hear? Can you see anything now?
Yes, we can see the screen now.
Okay, cool. Okay, very quickly, what I'm going to share is this. The general landscape is there's about 1,000 companies that is either directly or indirectly involved with fintech in Malaysia. Our members is around 180 to sometimes up to 200, 250. And there's about 600 people who are directly involved. And the industries that we are in generally are on payment, wallets, on risk management, insurance technology, crowdfunding, micro lending, robo advisories, and also traditional banking that is going into the digitalization. Most of the companies are run by founders, and many of them are very young. This is the other thing that we also notice in the industry is to look at it from a very positive perspective is there's a lot of opportunities to supply talent. And Malaysia actually is cheap because the compensation doesn't need to be very high for you to come here. And we love to have more deeper technology in terms of the ability to create values across multidiscipline and multi-economic activities. And the other thing is when it comes to funding, there's a lot of also opportunities because there's many affordable and up-and-coming companies that's now in Malaysia. And this is where Islamic Fintech is one of the vertical that we think would be able to be expanded rapidly and excitingly because Malaysia, as you know, is one of the countries that is leading as far as Islamic finance and Islamic economy in general in the world. So let me just share with you also about what are the area of synergy if you are a fintech company yourself. They're looking for partnership, they're looking for networking, they're looking for talent, and they're looking for technology in terms of way to collaborate. So many of the fintech companies in Malaysia, as I said, are very related to financial services, and there's a tendency, there's a lot of technology company going into financial services as well, TechFin in short. That's now mushrooming as well in this country. And I just want to share with you some of things that you should know when you want to get involved in Malaysia in terms of what are the key concerns that your potential partner from the industry perspective are concerned about. They are concerned about customer data privacy, copyright issue, trade secret, and all those stuff. But if let's say you are coming to Malaysia itself in terms of wanting to do business here, you should be thinking from three aspects. Either having to have your business here, inbound interest, or you want to have a pass-through interest where you want to use Malaysia either for your middle office or your back office, or you want to actually use Malaysia to scale your business and scale somewhere else because Malaysia is a good platform for you to start and springboard your business elsewhere. So I'll stop there and happy to discuss further with other panelists and with the audience after.
Thank you, Rizwan. So we are very here now. You heard what the landscape in Malaysia are like. Now let's hear from the startup perspective. Let's get Adam to tell us what are the challenges and how does he find doing business in Malaysia. Adam, what to you?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for that. So Helford is a fairly new startup. We started off earlier on this year. We launched our application in January. And a lot of the technology or what is required to have such an app running at a full capacity or at the maximum efficient that it can, is actually that all the things like Open API, which we saw Ridwan present earlier, was actually integral, so that we can actually streamline the entire process from consumer end straight down to obviously the business end, right? So our business model is actually quite unique in the sense that it has not actually been replicated anywhere in Southeast Asia. We would probably be one of the firsts to bring this to this part or this region. Now, the idea of open API, especially for us, what we hold very close to our hearts is actually open banking. And I know Rizwan has heard this a lot of times from me, but this is one of the things that we are looking to also push in the agenda, and would really greatly help in terms of opening up business prospects, not just for us, but for many fintech players out there in Malaysia and obviously across the region. So the idea of open banking is essentially where the argument is that the consumer owns their own data. As it stands right now, a lot of the financial incumbents and the banks obviously still have access to a lot of this data, and they mainly use it for their own marketing purposes. But the argument that we're trying to make, or what open banking does essentially, is that the consumers own their data, and we put our side on the side of the consumers, whereby we really try and champion what it is that they need or they want. So as we advocate financial literacy, we also notice that a lot of the younger generation, especially my own generation, the millennial generation, are more open to, in fact, banking or doing transactions outside the traditional means of banking. Let's say your internet banking. So they're with the advent rise of wallets and whatnot, they're much more comfortable in doing this. And so the opportunity is definitely there for a lot of these banks to actually open up this data, let's say, to us third parties, so that we can better serve the consumers. So one of the things, obviously, from a consumer perspective, we all want different. We all want this, want that, and the list is endless, right? But what we're trying to drill down with Hey Alfred is essentially asking these our audience, the younger audience, and what is it that you guys want? What is it that would work for you, and how can we help you? And that is something that we then deliver in, attend speaking platforms such as this one, in order to voice those opinions out and see, hey, you know what, this person has actually got, more than one banking account, and they just want to link up to have as simple as an aggregated view of their banking, of their personal wealth, right? So that they can be able to manage better. And I think for that's an integral part for our mission as well, in terms of, in order to educate, we also need to have a clear picture of where we're at on a personal level. So one of the things for us as a startup is getting the regulators and the ecosystem to really be on our side, and to really try and champion these different initiatives coming through.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Aiman, can you hear me, Aiman? Aiman? I think I still have some issues. Aiman, can you hear me? I think there's some technical issues with Aiman. Aiman, we just continue on. Great coming from a perspective of the startup, okay? But the questions, I'd like to bring it back to Adam. Oh, Aiman, can you hear me, Aiman?
Yes, loud and clear.
You're muted. Okay, great. Thanks. We're back. Okay, so Aiman, why not you do a short introduction to yourself, to the team?
Yeah, thank you once again.
Well, let me see. I think we have some connectivity issues, eh?
I think he has.
Yeah, I think he has some technical issues.
Wi-Fi may not be stable.
Yeah, so we just wait for Aiman to come back. At the same time, how do you think that the regulators? I'm throwing out this question to. I think a lot of people would like to know: are the regulators in Malaysia, are they progressive enough? What's your view on this? Are we good enough? The regulators are in par with the rest of them in terms of technology adoption, or amongst the industries? Are they progressive enough to move forward together in line with the industry and the technology as well? I'm opening up this question to you. Anyone would like to take this up?
Let me start with that. I think they have actually progressed well in terms of when you look at where they were maybe 3 years ago compared to what they are now, in terms of supporting the industry development, supporting some of the startup in terms of making sure that they get the needed recognition in starting their businesses. But it is also a learning curve for the regulator. So what Adam is doing, with Hey Alfred is something that probably would take a little while for them to understand. I do think they understand the business model, but to fit into the industry landscape in terms of allowing open banking, that requires some changes, some structural changes in the industry itself. So this does not require just Bank Negara, but it also requires PayNet to be improved, because currently our ICTF framework, although it's up there, but to allow that to happen, we need the nationwide digital ID to be functional. Then only we have real confidence and real capabilities for the open banking to be deployed. And this is where I think when that happens, Hey Alfred will be ahead of everybody else in terms of what they can do. And when that capability is somewhat allowed or recognized and be part of the ecosystem, I think that would give consumer the ultimate choice in terms of what Adam said just now, to to put together all your different bank account onto either one bank or onto an independent platform outside of the banking system. But as a consumer, you can choose whether you want to execute it outside, because at the end of the day, if we really understand about the personal data requirement, the master or the owner of data is actually consumer. It's not the bank. It's not any institution. So when this concept is put into practice, I think then the open banking would flourish, and I think Malaysia would really have a clear path to financial.
Okay, yes, it's true. I mean, every particular industries and the regulators, the government have to play their role in ensuring that the foundation has to be set up before a lot of this technology can be rolled out. In that sense, Adam, from a startup perspective, right? Especially when you're going into, you're going into the Islamic field, is there any additional regulatories that you have to oblige to or you have to conform to get your product rolled out? Because we're talking about commercial product and also Islamic product, which is two different markets at this moment.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
So as it stands right now, the regulators, like
you have to conform to get your product rolled out, because you're talking about commercial product and also Islamic product, which is two different markets at this moment.
Yeah. So as it.
Sorry, delay, I guess.
Okay. I think, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Maybe I'll just continue on. Sorry. Yeah. So as Ridwan had mentioned earlier, the regulators are very much responsive to a lot of the issues that are surrounding us as fintechs. But also similarly, it doesn't stop there. It requires the expertise and the collaboration efforts of all parties involved, including the startups themselves, and with these larger financial incumbents, such as the banks or the GLCs that are involved with creating this ecosystem. So before any regulatory framework can be put in place in terms of open banking or open data, we need to encourage this transition or this, and really explore the benefits as to how an open data framework can actually help industry sort of grow together, right? Open up different, whether that be different revenue models or different business prospects. Now, as it stands for Hey Alfred, we're not obliged to hold any licenses right now. We actually, like Ridwan said, we're actually ahead of the curve, and through our various discussions with the regulators, they have also said that as it stands right now, there is no framework, and you guys, we'll just keep us updated. So we really need to get to that point where we are allowed to also operate not within the lines, because that's not where we want to be. We want to obviously be able to express what we want to, what we do, right? When there's no funny business here, but we need to get there first. Now, in terms of Islamic finance, it's still early days for us. We are looking to offer Islamic products on our platform, and that is something that we are doing with one of the partners that will be included in the next launch update. But yeah, as it stands right now, there is we're not quite even there yet to the point where they can sort of impose, unless they want to. Yeah. So that's where we are right now.
Okay. Guys, we talk a lot about regulators, and I think regulators are quite progressive in Malaysia at this moment. Okay, Rizwan, I think we agree to that. What about the next, these issues that startup might face, especially those foreign startups who wants to venture into Malaysia? It's actually co-creation with the local industry players. What is your take on that? Are our local industry players more acceptance of technology, foreign technology, to be infused into our local ecosystems? Because that drives a lot of new technology that comes into place, not forgetting, of course, our local players as well. Do you think our industry is mature enough to co-create together?
I think yes, because when in general, when someone goes into fintech, I'm not saying all, but a lot of them came in because they want to solve issues. Like Adam, for example, he wants to solve issues where you don't have to open, if you have 5 bank accounts, you have to open 5 different websites. Okay, you just want to open one, and then all 5 bank accounts is synced. So the aspiration of solving issue is always the driver in terms of how you want to start your own venture, and this is where whether it's going to be done together with someone from or domestically or from international sources, partners, I don't think that would be a big concern to many of the startups here. But running a digital or a fintech companies, it is not just about that. And this is where I wanna share that I think everybody knows that companies like Wirecard, for example, they are very mature companies. And the breakdown of the company is not because that the technology is faulty. It's not because that they don't have money. It's because the governance of the companies are not there. And if you go back to for some of us who understand companies like WorldCom, for example, okay, this is where companies where they are doing very well financially, but again, governance. And if I bring you to another company where they are actually ahead of the curve, called Yes Bank in India. Very good companies, doing very well, but again, governance pull them down and need their reputation to be somewhat not trustworthy, although now they have been taken over by the government of India in terms of running that bank. So what I'm trying to say is, whenever that you work, whatever technology that you want to deploy or partner with, I think that criteria you can actually measure and you can assess, and you can do a due diligence for you to understand whoever that you're working with. But the most important thing to me is when you start to venture and partner with someone else, how do you measure whether that person or that company or that partner that you are going to go with has the kind of governance that would take you further rather than would actually bring you down going forward. And this is where, again, I want to quote another example. A company like WeWork, they almost, or they did actually make SoftBank to suffer losses. That is really something unthink of before you start to really analyze what really happened with WeWork. All of this is not trying to badmouth all these companies, but what I'm trying to bring here is before you go, or if you are already in, don't just think about the technology. Yes, you should think about it. Don't you just think about whether this is going to make money or not, but are you on the right path in terms of making sure that the company will be trustworthy? Because this is financial services. Fintech, majority is about financial services. How do you make sure that the trustworthiness will continue from here until the next 5 years, until the next 10 years. So that is something that a lot of startup may not realize now that's important. But if you really look after that constantly, I think that will make you a winner in a long run. Yeah, I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you. So very much, I think to touch on the topic is all about localization, getting your products to localize. If you're foreign players who come to Malaysia, you get it localized. And I have to say that MDEC, in collaboration with Bank Negara, we set up this particular initiative called Fintech Booster. So Fintech Booster is all about helping startups, local or even foreign startups, who actually have issues with, number one, legal and compliance. Because there's always the number one stepping block when it comes into any other countries. It's always about the legal and compliance of the particular country itself. The next is actually to match up with the industry. There's matchmaking of business model to make sure that your business model is correct. And the last pillar is always about technology. So this program was launched together with Bank Negara last month. And we're getting quite a fair bit of traction coming from the industry itself, which is not just local, but foreign players as well, which is good. So on that particular note, there is already a platform that is helping industries and also startups to come in together to come as a congregation point. It's all happening in the FinTech Hub at Orbit. So for those of you who need more information, you can actually go to www.fintechbooster.com.my to see what are the offerings that we have. And the best part is it's all done on free. The legal firms are actually learning about the technologies themselves, and so are the regulators. So this is the way we put things together to ensure that we are driving things forward. So on that note, Adam, what is your take about working together with the local industries? Do you face any difficulties? They are still the financial industries in Malaysia are still quite adamant, still want to do things the old way, or they're still more acceptable to technology now?
No, I think everybody is definitely aware of the potential that comes with all this emerging technologies, but it's really a matter of whether or not what interest do they serve. I think so. For us as a startup, of course, as Ron mentioned earlier, we serve the interest of solving problems as young entrepreneurs. That's what we do. But they're definitely very much open to working with us for sure. But we're seeing a change in the way that a lot of people are doing business or rather interacting with finance as a whole. And we want to obviously open this up for them. And we have the capability to do so as startups because we do have the extra resources and time to do so. But what we would like to see from some of these other incumbents is to really open up avenues for us to explore and to see how we can better the wider community. At the same time, also push for industry to thrive. We're not here to step on anyone's toes. We are indeed here to help the industry as a whole and help the consumer at the end of the day. So in terms of actually working with these, there are a lot of very progressive companies as well as GLCs, such as MDEC as well, who are, in fact, we are looking to work with eBerkat is one of the initiatives pushed out by MDEC at the moment. And we are also talking to MDEC at the moment about how we can really push out this initiative of financial literacy and financial health for the B40 community. So yeah, I mean, we can obviously see that there is a lot of progress and a lot of work, but obviously as fintechs and startups, we always want the next best thing and the next whatever is coming through. So it's definitely very much an ecosystem that is already thriving, but I think there's a lot more that can be done with obviously the consent and collaboration with of everybody. And in particular, I mean, for us, for us, it's obviously a lot of the banks and BNM. And so, yeah, we would love to obviously explore how we can work together with these entities because they do hold the majority of the consumer retail banking and therefore the people's wealth, right? So, yeah.
Great. Okay, thanks, guys. So if you were to, opening up to you guys, if you were to say, if you were to attract, what would you say that what is the thing that Malaysia has that will be a plus point if you want to land in Asia. So fintech companies that should land in Asia, in Malaysia as per se, what do you think is the plus point Malaysia has? Rizwan, you want to take this up?
Hello, Munwai. It's Aiman here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Aiman.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to join without the video. So I'm
okay.
Okay, sure.
After this question, good.
Yeah. Carry on, Rizwan.
Okay, thanks, Ahmad. Sorry for that. I think Malaysia is great in terms of having all the great elements to help companies, either, as I said just now, to come in and use this as a base. Come with interest to be in Malaysia, or we are also good at facilitating and becoming a pass-through location where we can have a lot of capabilities in terms of outsourcing certain functions. And we are also good at helping companies to go and use Malaysia as a springboard, because we also have not just the onshore, but we also have the Labuan as a midshore where we can do multi-currency, where not many people know about that or may not be aware about it. So one thing that I think we could do is internally we should brush up our capabilities in terms of telling stories about how great Malaysia is. And then I applaud in terms of what MDEC and Bank has done in terms of creating that fintech booster, because that really helps companies to understand and get accurate information about what is the required element for them to either have an inbound interest or pass-through interest or outbound interest. And for that, Fintech Association also will complement Fintech Booster with our own initiative called the Fintech Playbook in facilitating and validating certain information so that people would have really a clear understanding about what needs to happen. And Malaysia, as you know, we are not that big, but we are neither that small. So if you compare to our neighboring country, we are actually in the middle, where Singapore is just 5 million strong, Indonesia is 260 million strong, and the value proposition is different. But as far as Islamic Fintech is concerned, I think we are actually leading this because we have the regulation that both countries that I mentioned just now doesn't have. We have the experience of running this more than 2 decades in terms of having a parallel system of conventional and Islamic together, and it has shown tremendous result in terms of how well these two coexisted and continue to actually give options to many who wants to do both or either one of them. So this element and all this that has been mentioned need to be packaged and really be told to the world as a story that would encourage people to come. And I think COVID actually is an opportunity for us to tell the world that your Sharia compliance or Islamic venture can come to Malaysia without you coming here, because that digital facilitation can happen. And this is where I think, as I mentioned earlier, the regulators are progressive enough. MDEC is ever ready to help. And just to tell everybody that MDEC also have some grant that you can apply to, because I'm sitting as one of the evaluators for the grant for MDEC. So it's available for you to come in and make use of those opportunities for you to come and take Malaysia as a ground for you to expand your business or start your business or be part of your business as an outsource center. So I think it's there and it's available. So hopefully, if you want to know more, either contact me or contact Tang, who would be able to help you either with the Fintech Booster or any other information that you need for Fintech.
Thanks. Okay, so we have Aiman. Aiman, can you hear me, Aiman?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Aiman, why don't you give a short introduction about you, and then I will start with you. We got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sure. I mean, save the best for the last, I think. Okay. I'm here Muhammad Aiman. I'm the Director and Principal Consultant of Tawfiq Consultancy. We are part of the Fintech Booster Training Faculty. We'll be delivering our training session specifically in terms of Sharia 101 next month. So to cover that understanding of how Sharia and Fintech and the technology and financial sector can be harmonized and work closely. We are licensed under SC. We mainly cover Oman and market and Asian market from the Sharia endorsement, Sharia review, and product development. So that's about it. But I think I echo what Rizwan has mentioned earlier and Adam highlighted earlier, especially in terms of how the market in Malaysia is prepared enough to welcome those from outside to develop and to make Malaysia as the hub for Islamic Fintech. Just to share here that the digital economy and Islamic finance, as I'm not so sure whether you have highlighted earlier, forms part of the key economic growth activity CAGR of the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030. I hope it's still there. But bottom line is about how to converge the digital economy and Islamic finance together, and we can become the hub. That's what we offer. We don't have the population. We are trying to say to tap the market of Indonesia. People will go for Indonesian market. Why? Because the vast is because of the volume, or even Vietnam, or even Thailand, or others. Or in the African region, we go for direct for Nigeria, 226 million population there. So how can Malaysia? We cannot compete from that angle, but we have, based on the experience of Islamic finance since 1983, since the halal certification that we have, people really, want the certification, wants the endorsement. They are looking for the endorsement by the Malaysian space and regulators and players, and they can operate out there. I mean, allow me just to add a few points here. What in terms of experience, we have had more than enough experience just to expand. So we don't want to be the local champion anymore. We want to export out of the local jurisdiction. So how I would believe one of the way that we can do it by tapping into the Labuan or offshore, now becoming midshore territory, whereby we license people who wants to be licensed as an Islamic fintech entity under a regulatory authority here. You may find it difficult to put it under BNM or SE or even SKM here. Why not we move somewhere near Labuan or within the territory of Labuan, have representative from BNM, SE and others. We certify others. They can operate globally, but they are licensed under the standardization of Malaysian standard, but taking into consideration the international accepted Sharia standard. So I would believe somehow this is where we should move from, not only being the local champion, we certify others, let them go out, let them operate from anywhere, any part of the world, but they conform to Malaysian standard. People are looking for halal standard or Malaysian standard, but the problem is Malaysian halal standard can only be certified for locally produced product, or you have to bring the person out there to the source and certify that. So can we have in between that? The certification comes from Malaysia, and then you operate anywhere in the world in terms of fintech. So I believe that somehow represents my thought and insight of this discussion. I pass it over to Onwai.
Okay, Aiman, just one more question, right? What is the common misconception when it comes to Islamic fintech? Is it about the regulations, about the religious issues? What are the most are the things that are always misunderstood?
Yeah, I believe what we have, I think it's a development, progress development that we have. All back then, what we have is the interest-based, non-interest-based. The moment you can eliminate the element of interest, then it's Islamic in nature. But now, as we progress, what we have is the values, added values that we have. Just to compare, the total global Islamic asset is close to USD 3 trillion, but we are 10 times lower than the responsible and ethical banking, 30 trillion. That segment does not conform or does not certify finance within interest banking. Only ethically responsible entities are financed. So this is the shift that we wanted to have. It's about the social well-being. It's about comprehensive economic model, sharing economy. It's about financial inclusion, the value that is inherent in Islamic finance. Or if I may put in within the Islamic economy, we have three components: the Islamic banking and finance, we have the Islamic social finance, and halal economy. So if we were to put together these three components, you have the halal insurance fintech end to end with using fintech, using technology, using blockchain. You add on Islamic social finance to back up financial inclusion through sadaqah, wakaf, zakat, and so on and so forth. And through technology, you allow financial products to be shared, saving, deposits, remittance, insurance, microfinance, you name it. So as a total package, I can see that the misconception is Islamic finance is only about interest or non-interest. No, it's beyond that. That's why we are shifting towards value-based Sharia, or I shall put it maqasid compliant rather than only Sharia compliant now, whereby we can also test beyond your halal, non-halal, whether your legal documentation are intact, whether your internal SOP, your technology capability can conform and cater to Islamic principles. Beyond that is whether you give back to the society. This is where we also monitor and measure your impact. So the social impact is also being monitored through Islamic fintech, and I believe that's where we are heading to. We want to escalate this only from the Sharia compliant into maqasid or value-based, objective-based compliant. Munwan.
Okay, thanks. So we're running running short of time. We're looking at the questions that have been posted. I think Aiman is for you as well. The technology perspective becomes existing tech in compliance with Sharia law. I think that's one of the questions being asked, because they say there's quite a bit unclear where Sharia comes when it comes to technology. Let's say, for example, blockchain. This was asked by Adria. Yeah.
Shall I answer that? Respond to that, or?
You can respond to that, please. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in giving value to the technology, for example, there's no religion to that, basically. But you can continue this is from the mu'amalat concept. Continue and explore whatever you want, except and only if there is things which are not conformed to the Sharia principle. So technology per se, you can use, it's like knife. It can be used for good or bad, isn't it? So technology is likewise is the same. So in general, technology is allowed, financial sector is allowed. However, there are certain cornerstones that is not allowed or to be addressed, for example. So we talk about a few major points, which is on the major prohibitions, simply the interest, the uncertainty, unclarity, ambiguity, the gambling part, or we put it the speculation part rather than gambling, and conformity of the principles of contracts. So that's the only part that we want to see in the technology, that it is been addressed properly. The technology can cater to the needs. Beyond that, we are ready to even certify. So we have done a few certifications for at our capacity and personal experience, and we are hoping to add more. We only have 26 Islamic fintech being certified either through IDE locally, but we have close to 200 fintech players in Malaysia. That's still 10% from the total fintech players. We want more to come. It's not that hard. I think the misconception is that more money to be put in, but you see the global market, you see the global needs for Islamic fintech, the needs for that. The moment you can tap that, I think from the economic perspective, there you go. It's a huge market.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to wrap it up now. I want to just get from everyone. We start with Adam. Okay, because the whole talk is about what is the future of Islamic fintech. I mean, it's a huge market. We know how are we going to get on board. Who should we talk to? But what is your view, or what is your advice to all the players out there that who wants to, let's say, for instance, come to Malaysia? You know, the honeypot, you know, the honeypot.
Yeah, as previously mentioned, we are at the cornerstone. Malaysia is obviously leading in terms of Islamic finance. I think it's also, the ease of doing business here in Malaysia is real. I mean, we very much welcome foreign businesses of doing business here in Malaysia. I think that the market here in Malaysia is, there's a high demand for financial products, for Islamic financial products, and being the major sort of provider of these financial products, there is a huge market here. At the same time, we also are a population that is very much, ahead of our time in terms of the Islamic finance tech as a whole. And I think I'm not quite sure. I'm not too well versed, so I don't want to comment too much. But it's definitely a conducive environment for the culmination or for Islamic fintech to really grow within the sphere of being a developed nation. That is, there's still a lot of things that we can, developing nation, sorry, that there's still a lot of things that we can still sort of plug into and really make sure that Islamic fintech as a whole is more cohesive and can therefore compete on the wider stage.
Thanks, Adam. Aiman, your last take?
I believe we have to take and learn from our own experience. Islamic finance in Malaysia is close to 40 years. We are a little bit lagging behind. We took it quite slow in that nature, but we have put every infrastructure and the verticals intact. We need to step up a little bit more, ensure this robust industry moves faster. I would believe a more inclusive platform of regulators to address this issue. We certify Malaysian fintech, Islamic fintech, and let them, the players, operate globally, borderless, and therefore the Malaysian brand goes out, exporting throughout the globe. I thank you.
Thank you. So, Rizwan, are you there? I think Rizwan's line got just cut off now, Mike. With that, thank you very much to all the panels, Adam, Aiman, and also...
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you, Mr. Tamuwai, for being our moderator. Mr. Adam, Mr. Aiman, also Mr. Rizwan. Thank you all for joining us today and sharing your insights and perspectives, your experiences. I think everyone has benefited. If you would like to share any contact information or website, please just put it in the public chat, so that the participants can reach out to you for more information. Okay, we're going to have to wrap up this session because our next session is a little bit behind schedule. But thank you again, guys.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up with you in the social platforms, inshallah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, to all of our participants, I want to remind you again that our Q&A's tab is open. So for any of you who have questions, you can put it in the Q&A tab. We also have a public chat area. Please do write for us in the chat section and tell us what country are you joining from. We love to see how big our international audience is and how diverse it is. So please do just drop a message in the chat box and say, hi, my name is, and I'm joining from whichever country. So yeah, please do that so we can see the participation of our audience. All right, moving forward, we're going to go next to our Jumpstart panel session. We have a very high impact platform list of speakers and panelists. I'm going to check and see how many of our panelists are online right now. Okay, I see 1, 2. I invite everyone to please turn on your cameras now, and we'll have a quick mic check. I see our moderator for today is online, Mr. Nurhizam Kadir, Vice President of Fintech. Can you hear me, brother? Nurhizam?
Yes. Assalamualaikum, Brother Sabri. How are you?
Waalaikum salam. All right, very good. Miss Farah Jafar Crosby, can we have a quick mic check, please? Can you hear me? Can you speak a few words?
Yes, of course.
All right.
Nice to meet everybody here.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us. Okay, brother Sheikh Bilal Khan, can we do a quick mic check? Can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much. Good to see you, brother.
Likewise.
Okay, Pak Afdal Ali Asar.
Assalamualaikum, Brother Ahmad Sabri.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, alhamdulillah. Mic check complete. Miss Stella Cox, are you with us?
I am, but my screen seems to be frozen.
Okay, we can hear you. The audio is a bit low, and the picture is not available.
I'm going to try and connect back in. I think that's the best way
No
forward.
problem. Okay, and we have one more panelist. We are awaiting Mr. or two more actually. Mr. Ayman As-Sajani.
Yes, I'm
from ICD.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Can we have a mic check? Can you just...
Yeah. Can you hear me well? This is Ayman Sujini.
The audio is very, very low.
This is Ayman Sujini. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, but it's very weak. The audio is very weak. Maybe if you have a separate microphone or another microphone, or you try to adjust the audio settings, the voice is very low.
Okay, audio options.
Okay, he's configuring his settings. Okay, next we need to invite Mr. Tariq Akin. Mr. Tariq, are you with us? Okay, we haven't got him with us yet. I will just go over a few ground rules, advices for the panel. We have our moderator in the top here, Mr. Nurizam. So I would just request everyone, in order to help with the audio quality, that when you are not speaking, please keep your microphone muted, because sometimes all of our microphones can create an echo effect if they're on at the same time. So we kindly request all of the speakers that please, if you are not speaking, keep your microphone muted. Right now we're just doing a sound check, so alhamdulillah, we're done for about everyone except two. So yeah, that's just one point. Also, if anyone drops out, just remain calm. They will probably come back. It happens. We're not physically in the same place, so we can sometimes teleport and come back instantaneously. So just be patient. Inshallah, we'll work through the technical issues. So while we're waiting for Mr. Tariq Akin to join, let me try to test again with Mr. Ayman As-Sajani. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Is this better now?
It's a little bit better, but it's in and out. Are you using an external microphone or is laptop?
I tried both, so I think this is the best I can get to.
Okay.
Maybe
is it an external microphone, or this is a laptop or a phone?
No, it's an iPad microphone.
iPad microphone.
Yeah. Is this better? Can you hear me now? Is it possible to hear me, or this is difficult to hear me?
It's very, but it's I think only if we use a headset we might be able to hear. Okay. I would recommend, if you have easy access to a laptop with a microphone, or possibly even a good phone, I would recommend you change the device.
Okay, I'll do that right away now.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Stella Cox. We can see you now. Can we do a mic check?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. There is a bit of lag. I can hear you. Is my voice clear for you?
It is, yes.
Good.
Okay. So also, since we are connecting, I believe 5 or 6 different countries, there might be a bit of lag because we are sitting on different parts of the earth. We are blessed with the technology to do this, but yeah, there could be a little bit of lag. So maybe be patient a bit between the speaking and responding, because the message has to take an international flight. So yeah, our representatives so far for this session. We have Malaysia, we have Saudi Arabia, we have Indonesia, we have UK, and we have Turkey and Kazakhstan. Okay, our representatives from Turkey and Kazakhstan we have. From Turkey and from Saudi Arabia, we are awaiting. Mr. Ayman Asajani is, I believe, fixing his settings. And Mr. Tariq, we are still waiting for him to join. I think what I can do is I will be here with you guys just to support until everything is running smoothly. But we can start with the introductions now in order to save time. So what I will do is I will pass to Mr. Nur Hizam to start off the panel and allow the present speakers to introduce themselves. And once we get the last two speakers on, then I can step out and let you guys have the full panel. So Mr. Nur Hizam, I will turn over the mic to you to start with the introductions. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Brother Sabri. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. My name is Hizam Kadir, and I'm from Malaysia Digital Economy Corporations here in Kuala Lumpur, or to be specific, in Cyberjaya, outside of Kuala Lumpur. I'm actually very delighted to be in the company of today's high-powered speakers. Looking at the list, and these are esteemed panelists who really know the industry and who really know how the advancements of Islamic Fintech would then be able to move and change the world. In the interest of getting every panelist to come and join, maybe we'll start by having each and every one of you to do a very quick introductions of yourself, tell where you come from, as well as what you do in your organization. Maybe we'll start with ladies first. There are two ladies in the panel. We'll start with Ms. Farah Jafar, and then we'll go to Ms. Stella Cox with the rest of the panelists subsequently. So over to you, Farah, for quick introductions of yourself.
Thank you, Narizam. It's a pleasure being here. My name is Farah. I represent Labuan IBFC, which is Malaysia's Midshore Center. And my role as CEO at Labuan IBFC Incorporated is really to create better awareness and understanding of the jurisdiction. On behalf of Labuan Financial Services Authority, who is our parent company and a statutory body under the Minister of Finance of Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah. Ms. Stella Cox, would you be able to introduce yourself a bit? I think there's a bit of an intermittent challenges with Stella. That's the case. Maybe we'll move to Brother Sheikh Bilal. If you can do a bit of introductions of yourself.
I think Stella's back, so we'll let
Stella's back. Yeah. Do you want to give Stella's the opportunity to speak first?
Yes, please. Ladies first.
All right. Ladies first. Miss Stella,
hear me?
if you can do a quick introductions of yourself. We can hear you. Yes. Loud and clear.
Okay. Delighted to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Stella Cox. I'm Managing Director of DD Cap Group, based in London in the UK. I also sit on a number of external UK committees, including some UK government task force. And I also, most relevant to this session, sit on the UK Islamic Fintech panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella. Brother Sheikh Bilahan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I should say good afternoon to everybody. I don't know if it's afternoon or morning, wherever you are. But nice to meet and e-meet and reacquaint myself with everybody. I wear a number of hats like the other speakers. I won't bore you with the details. For the purpose of this particular presentation, I am Chief Islamic Finance Officer for AIFC, Astan International Financial Center, and I sit on the FinTech Academy board here as well as a few other initiatives, which I will touch on when we speak.
Thank you. And Pa Abdal, great to be meeting you virtually again.
Yeah.
How are you, Pak?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah.
Do you want to, for the interest of the audience, maybe give a bit of introductions of your organizations and yourself?
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Abdel Ali Akhtar from Indonesia, from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm representing the National Committee of Islamic Economy and Finance. So this is a very special committee, independent, chaired directly by our presidents. The goal is to improve the Islamic economy in Indonesia. Now I'm as a director for the halal industry development. Yeah, back to Mr. Nurhizam.
Thank you so much. Brother Sabri, in the interest of time, I think maybe we can start having the discussion while we have Ms. Stella Cox and Mr. Aiman to come and join us, and they can come into the queue accordingly.
Yes, I agree. Let's go ahead and move forward.
Let's go ahead. All right.
We'll integrate the other speakers as they join. We'll allow them a brief introduction and just keep moving forward.
Got it. So the topic of today's discussions was briefed by the organizers for us to be discussing about growth of Islamic Fintech and how intercontinental bridges can be built. That's pretty wide topic. And, when we zoom it down and looking at the opportunities in the global Islamic Fintech market, reports have said that it is expected to reach $3.5 trillion US dollars in assets by 2024. But at the same time as well, when you look at growth of Islamic Fintech or Islamic finance, there's still some level of inequality and non-inclusivity that varies from one country to another. The aim of today's discussions is perhaps if we can have wisdoms from all the esteemed panelists to discuss about how Islamic Fintech can play a more effective role as solutions to address these inclusivity challenges. And at the same time as well, and looking at cross-continent collaborative efforts, and the key words is collaboration, to look into how access to capital can be improved, talent development, education, and regulatory work across the globe. The questions is really about how Islamic Fintech developments spanning across all these parts of the world in the globe can be realized as a truly global phenomenon in years to come. So with that, maybe since Brother Aiman just joined, if I'll hand it over to Brother Aiman to do a bit of introduction to yourself, and maybe to give 5 minutes overview of your presentation on this topic, and then we can move from one speaker to another. Housekeeping, I think I'm concerned of the time as well. If you can be quick within 5 minutes for you to be presenting, and we'll open it up for question and answers and brainstorming sessions after that. So, Brother Aiman, if you can, over to you.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you on this webinar. It's a global, as you have mentioned, fintech is definitely going to help us to be global. ICD is an entity that's part of an Islamic Development Bank. ICD is an Islamic corporation of the private sector development. We enable within 55 member countries. We do have 5 business lines. We issue a debt capital market. We manage treasury funds. We go and provide line of finance. We do asset management, and we have 119 financial institutions in our network. So we created a platform within our network in order to support the 119 financial institutions and get them to serve the countries that they're in a much easier way and in communication with us. So by saying so, this was a quick introduction for ICD. In regards to the question of how to seek or create or navigate our Islamic fintech opportunities, despite the spotlight on fintech in recent years, and its global impact on the provision of the financial services, digital innovation in the Islamic finance services industry has been relatively slow compared to its conventional counterparts. There has been a shortage of Sharia-compliant alternatives to meet the increased demand for wealth management, investment, insurance, and banking products that offer easier access, faster and more cost-effective delivery, and greater transparency. Amid the current pandemic and competing in the digital era, the case is compelling for Islamic banks to take on a more prominent role in the fintech ecosystem. The digital capacity and capabilities provide an added advantage considering Islamic banks are generally smaller than conventional counterparts in terms of resources and distribution network, with high fixed costs. Pumping and putting together Sharia compliant lenders at disadvantage due to their relative lack of scale. Indeed, it makes sense for Islamic banks to have a digital focus to remain competitive. The opportunity have already presented itself. The technology is ripe with high penetration of mobile and internet across the markets around the world. Consumers are also becoming more and more tech savvy. Increasingly, financial inclusions via fintech, the rapid update of mobile wallets indicates that African consumers are readily accepting digital technology, and an increase in urban literacy and young populations, as well as a segment of consumers and small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, underserved by the traditional banking solutions. Innovation with the Islamic social financial space can also assist to address a number of issues facing Ummah and society at large. Waqf, Sadaqah, and Zakat have large potential to become important additional sources of financials for people in need of aid, especially in this pandemic. And technology is a powerful tool to widen access to outreach to these social financial instruments. It is critical to highlight that an enabling environment is important to facilitate this innovation process in the Islamic financials. Malaysia is issuing fintech regulatory sandbox framework in 2016. Similarly, in 2016, Abu Dhabi Global Market launched its fintech regulatory laboratories. Saudi Arabia has also established its own sandbox, and as well, Central Bank of Bahrain have done the same. So the establishment of computed environments and acceleration program will also pave the way for the development of Islamic fintech. IFIs can also focus on specialization and out-of-the-box solution in business segments that cannot be easily replicated by non-traditional players to gain competitive advantage. So this is in lump sum of what we think of within ICD. Thank you. I hope my voice was clear.
Your voice was clear enough, actually, and everybody was able to hear. Thank you so much, Brother Ayman. And we would like to welcome Dr. Tariq Akin from Presidency of Turkey's office. Welcome, Dr. Tariq. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, in the end, I am in. Alhamdulillah, I am now very well. Salam to all of the participants, and sorry for being late.
No problem, actually. And we just started, and Brother Ayman just now has given a quick update on what ICDs has been doing, as well as his view with regards to the innovation around Islamic fintech globally. Perhaps, Dr. Tariq, if you can give a quick introduction of yourself,
sure.
And within about 5 minutes, if you can give a view about the growth of Islamic fintech and how Intercontinental bridges can then further increase inclusivity of Islamic fintech adoptions across the world.
Sure. A very short introduction about me. I am the Division Director at Finance Office of the Presidency of Turkey. I'm actually the Islamic finance leader here, and we are doing many things here. My background is indeed from economics. I have a BA in economics from Kent University, a master's degree from Harvard University. Then I went to Malaysia to do my PhD at INSAFE. My main research interests are Islamic capital markets, inequality and redistribution, as well as SME finance. With your permission, I want to start my talk. Inshallah, I will do it in 5 minutes. I want to start by introducing the Finance Office, which is the FinTech coordination unit and responsible for establishing the FinTech ecosystem in Turkey. I will a bit talk about Finance Office, since this will help the audience and guests know about Turkey's ambition for becoming an Islamic FinTech hub. The new presidential system of government was introduced in 2018. With this new system, 4 new offices have been established to secure faster and more strategic decision-making process in governance. The offices are directly tied to the president himself. And Finance Office is one of these 4 offices. There are several assigned responsibilities of the Finance Office. One is observing developments and conducting research on financial sector and directly reporting to the president. Also developing new financial instruments, especially on Islamic finance. We also will, inshallah, attract international financial flows to Turkey. Also, we will develop, this is important, we will also develop the financial strategy of Turkey, including Islamic finance, FinTech, and conventional finance. Finally, the Finance Office is the sole authority in managing and conducting the Istanbul Finance Center project. The Istanbul Finance Center project aims at making Istanbul a regional and then a global financial center. Let me underline here the fact that Istanbul Finance Center project is based on 2 main pillars. One is Islamic finance or participation finance, another one is FinTech. It means the bulk of our agenda in making Istanbul a global financial center consists of Islamic finance and FinTech. In this regard, Islamic FinTech is an important area of combination of the pillars of the Istanbul Financial Center project. Indeed, we want the Istanbul Finance Center to be a regional as well as a global hub in Islamic FinTech. Coming back to the topic of this session, I will mention about and explain the main initiatives by Finance Office and the government of Turkey to ensure Islamic FinTech's access to capital, development of talent, customer education, and regulation. We believe that thanks to these initiatives, Islamic FinTech will be a catalyst for the success of Istanbul Finance Center project in the near future. Among others, the FinTech strategy of the Finance Office is mainly based on 4 sequential policy initiatives. Firstly, we are working on writing the national FinTech strategy documents. Secondly, we are working on establishing a FinTech ecosystem. Since FinTech firms are the gist of this ecosystem, we are closely working with them. There is a close cooperation and mutual understanding with these firms. New technologies and tools that enable innovation, telecom and technology companies that create infrastructure or distribution, startups that create innovative businesses are all elements of this ecosystem. Thirdly, I think this is also an important initiative. We are working on establishing the finance and technology base, which has unique features and possibly be the first of its kind. This is a very important and maybe pioneering initiative. Let me highlight that this is not a technopark, but something much more comprehensive. Finally, we will develop a system to mobilize effective, adequate, and to the point FinTech funds for the startups. These are the main steps we have taken to create and navigate Islamic FinTech opportunities in Turkey. We believe through Istanbul Financial Center project, we will help Islamic FinTech to be a global phenomenon. Thank you. I hope I stayed within the time limits. This is all I want to say for now.
Very well within the time limit. Thank you so much, Dr. Tariq.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, from Turkey, and it's great to have speakers from all around the world. From Turkey, maybe we move to Indonesia. Farafdal, and you are a very well-renowned person within the region that has been championing Islamic finance and focusing on Islamic finance as a form of inclusivity. Share with us your views on the opportunities around Islamic fintech and the opportunities across maybe perhaps ASEAN.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Nurizam. Please allow me to share some presentations.
Okay.
Can you see?
Not yet. Okay, I think it's loading right now.
How about now? It's okay?
It's still loading.
Still loading.
Okay. Yes, it's showing right now.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the invitation to talk about the fintech, the growth of Islamic fintech, especially for fintech in Indonesia. So let me start with the overview of the Islamic economy development in Indonesia. In 2015, we launched the Islamic financial architecture for the Islamic finance. And then after that, we established what we call the KNICAS. This is like a milestone of Indonesia development for the Islamic economy. The committee is to enhance the Islamic finance development in Indonesia, chaired directly by the president. Now is like a daily chairman is our vice president to manage this committee. First, we start with the Islamic finance developments. But then recently we aware that we cannot only boost the Islamic finance, but we need to look at the economy transactions, because finance is only the result of the economy. So after that, we developed what we call that master plan for the Islamic economy. And by the end of 2019, we have an implementation plan for the Islamic economy development. Early this year, we changed the committee to become the National Committee of Islamic Economy and Finance. You can see now we have many improvements about Islamic finance and also Islamic economy in Indonesia. But I want to start a bit more about the fintech technology. Islamic finance in Indonesia, the potential is very huge. We have a very huge market for the Islamic economy, Islamic finance itself, but the growing still small compared to the conventional one. Maybe if we compare to Malaysia, our Islamic financial shares is still about almost 9% from the total financial asset in Indonesia. But I want to share with you for the Islamic Economy Development Master Plan, we have strengthening digital economy as one of the big pillars to improve the Islamic economy in Indonesia. So we realize the important things of the technology, of the future of the transaction, how people interact with the internet, do the transaction online, and all this stuff related to the technology. So that's why we want Islamic finance, Islamic economy in Indonesia, not only to be traditional, but must be updated with the new technology approach. So what we do, we launched the first digital payment, Islamic comply with the Sharia rules. So this is the first and the only one as now in Indonesia, digital payment. So the difference of digital payment in here, the ecosystem of the finance is still keeping the Islamic banking, Islamic financial institutions ecosystem. So we try to keep the money in the Islamic ecosystem, try to boost the improvement so people can use the digital payment for the daily transactions, and all for the all transportations, to buy a lot of things, to pay a lot of things, and collaborations with the most for the many like zakat payment, wakaf payment, and also with all the stakeholders, including educations, marketplace, and many things. So we understand that we want to change how people transaction the Islamic economy. So let's start with the digital payment, which comply with Sharia. And then we also, what we do, we ask the marketplace that's already in Indonesia to create the segment for the Islamic, for the Sharia segment. First, we ask Tokopedia, and then they see this is very interesting opportunity. So they launch what they call the Tokopedia Salam. And then Bilibili, Bukareksa, Shopee, and many marketplaces in Indonesia now trying to improve the transactions in the Islamic finance segments, Sharia segment for the Islamic economy segments. I want to give you the numbers. For example, like Tokopedia, in 2019, the transaction in Tokopedia is about 1.5% from Indonesia GDP. And now, during this pandemic, the marketplace transaction improved maybe 4 times or 5 times compared to the last year. It's very huge improvement. And Alhamdulillah, we have a Sharia segment there. Sharia who sell the halal product to give the investment for the Islamic opportunity improve.
Yeah. But I'm sorry to interrupt, actually. If you can sum up in the interest of time.
Yep, thank you. And lastly, we just introduced the halal traceability, the use of the blockchain for the halal implementation for the pottery in Indonesia. I think
that's good.
The many improvement, the key success factor because of the strong support from the governments, collaborations with the private parties, and the halal lifestyle developed in Indonesia, and also the very important things, the market players, the manufacturers, they are understand about the requirement of the market. Market want the halal product. So that's why they keep trying to improve. I think that's the future. We want to have an Islamic digital bank, halal traceability, and also collaboration with all the local players. Thank you very much. Then we can discuss later. Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Thank you. Wa alaikum salam. We have 2 more speakers, and I think it's Miss Stella back online. She's not. All right. We'll hand it over to Miss Farah. Over to you, Miss Farah. I think you have to mute. You have to unmute your microphone. You're still muted. There is a microphone button on top where if you can click on it, there you go.
Done. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
You think I know what to do after having so many times on this Zoom by now?
It happened. It happened.
No, it's fine. So, I think the conversation we're having is very, very interesting because of 2 things. Number one, Islamic finance is something, or Islamic financial services and intermediation is something that Labuan obviously has a very, very long history in. We are home to the world's first suku, huge Islamic base, part of Malaysia, definitely key, right? Our approach to digital finance, and I'm taking one step up here from just fintech, because our approach is not just about fintech. As a jurisdiction, our focus is DLT, is blockchain technology. And really, in a way, it's about the approach towards DLT in our licensing regime. So the way we look at it is that Islamic finance and digital technology is a choice that entities make. It's a choice whether you would like to be Sharia compliant or not, inclusive. It's a choice whether you want to take the digital route in doing something or not, right? So the approach of putting both together is something we are very, very excited about. As a digital, so I don't need to dwell too much about Labuan as a Islamic hub, okay? But Labuan as a digital hub, I think is something that we need to talk a little bit more about. I think my fellow panelists and also those of you watching will be quite surprised to know that as of June this year, we have licensed 40 digital players already.
40.
So we have 2 digital security asset exchanges. One is Pusang Exchange that is already going to be listing its first digital asset soon, called Spice. And then recently, in the last month or so, we've licensed Gibraltar Exchange to come into Asia. So they have Gibraltar, already has an exchange in Gibraltar. Obviously, they've chosen Labuan as their Asian hub. And what's interesting about Gibraltar, GSX, is that they're very much into into financial inclusion. And in a lot of ways, I think the issue of Islamic and fintech inclusion of fintech and the issue of fintech and financial inclusion, they are maybe the 3 sides to the same coin, as it were. So out of the 40 licenses, because our approach to, so I'll go back a little bit to our digital licenses. Our approach to digital finance is that every single license that we have being offered in Labuan can be a digital license, okay? Because it's a business process. As a wholesale financial center, we are very much focused on the business process, and we are very much focused on the regulatory stringentness of the businesses, and we are very much focused on licensed intermediaries. So the focus is very much on the fact that if you want to have a digital license, you can. You just need to ensure that the regulator is satisfied with your business process, the stringentness of it, and that it meets the regulatory processes and international standards. So we have 40 licenses. We have credit token licenses, which people use for STOs. We have money broking licenses, what people use for crypto exchanges. We have payment gateway approvals. We have SPVs, we have private equities, we have partnerships. And the beauty of it is that not only is it tax efficient, it's also regulatory and currency neutral. So you could, for example, and this is something I said in Turkey when I was there last year, was that you could have everything in Turkish lira licensed in Labuan, operating globally and meeting international standards, right? So the thing about fintech is that, or digital business, is that it doesn't, and I use this word very, very loosely, respect boundaries. And that's why box standard geographical based regulators struggle with it. Where's the client onboarded? How do you do eKYC? How does this work? And the advantage of Labuan is that as a wholesale center, we're able to sit down with prospective license holders and say, walk us through your system, walk us through your client onboarding. And then we go away and do our DD on that. Really not? So in that sense, we're in a sweet spot. But it's important to understand that Islamic finance and fintech, personally for me anyway, is a natural combination. And the best way for us, to go back to the title, I guess, and stop the Labuan pitch, the title of this panel is, building bridges. And I think the best way to start building bridges is to start with things that are quite standardized within the Sharia landscape. And I'll give you an example of that. So when it comes to fintech or DFIN, or and I don't even begin to pretend that I understand this business, okay? Because it's all going too fast for me anyway. Regardless of what it is, the fintech business and the digital community are extremely united. They are united in their sharing. They are united in their openness. Mm-hmm. The flip side to that is that Sharia acceptability is a little bit more fragmented. So if we started merging digital and aspects of Sharia that are universal, then you're going to get very quick wins, right? So the example that comes to mind immediately is the proof of concept that's being done by the Labuan Financial Exchange at the moment, Project Pancor, well, it's done by Gibraltar Stock Hashtags and Labuan Exchange, and it's called Project Harbour. Sorry, I was going to say Project Rubin.
Yeah.
Wrong jurisdiction.
Wrong country. Ms. Farah, if you can quickly sum up so that
yes,
we can give Brother Sheikh a chance as well.
So the crux of this is that a suko or a bond is a very standard contract. So the adaptability and the acceptability of it can be quickly achieved. And all you have to do is appreciate that the digital aspect of it lies on top of it. And so we have a quick win. And I guess that's all I have to say about that. Thank you very much.
For all the quick wins. Thank you. And last but not least, Brother Sheikh, my apologies for having you to speak last, but I'm sure that you'll be able to bring exciting views on growing the Islamic Fintech. So over to you, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum and afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity once again, organizers, and it's very nice to be at the end of the queue, because I think it avoids me to duplicate or say the same things, and I'd like to pay homage to all the speakers. I think they've spoken very eloquently and have advocated the case for clearly for fintech for different regions. And I feel like I want to work more on the intercontinental aspect of the title, and particularly my continent where I'm sitting. And I think it's a natural fit. So I'm here on the ground in the Central Asian market in what you call, there's different titles. So there's CIS, there's the ex-Soviet Union bloc, Eurasian Economic Union, and Brother Tariq Akin will know that this is a former Turkic market. So the people from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, all the stans are actually Turkic ethnically. So they can kind of, understand Turkey and Istanbul. I think and we have various, different agreements with different parts of the world, like the Eurasian Economic Union. Nobody actually talks about continents anymore. They're supercontinents. So you don't talk about Europe or Asia, you talk about Eurasia. Right, so this is where the world is going, and digital, as Ms. Farah's mentioned, transformation and DLT and other particular enablers will help us do that very quickly without all the kind of inefficiencies. I've had the good fortune of actually help create financial centers. So when Dr. Tariq mentions that there's the Istanbul Financial Center model, I've worked on the Astana International Financial Center, which is flourishing now. I'm also involved with the Tashkent Financial Center in Uzbekistan. So more than happy to help with the Istanbul project if need be. I am a judge by profession, so I'm a British judge, international arbitrator, I have a partner international firm, also happen to be a Sharia scholar who understands Sharia aspects of it. And I want to go a step further and say we shouldn't just talk about Islamic fintech, right? I think because the whole point of finance was to enable the real economy. For me, it's a case of Islamic eco-fintech, right? And eco meaning the main economy. So that eco could be replaced by agribusiness. So Islamic agri-fintech, Islamic health fintech, Islamic education fintech. And the reason for that is, if you look at Kazakhstan, it's the top 10 export of raw and processed food, which is amazing. So if you look at net buyers in the OIC, Muslim world, then Egypt is the net buyer of the grain wheat, 13.3 million tons. Why isn't this being done intra-OIC? I'm just giving you one example of wheat. So if wheat is being processed and produced in Kazakhstan and mostly bought in certain countries like Egypt, why is it not happening? So obviously Egypt and other countries are buying their wheat from Brazil, Argentina, Australia, Canada. That's a problem in itself. Number two, we can use all the existing financial structures, whether it's sukuk, murabaha, insurance-based models, to do that. So we enable agri-food, whether it's investment, whether it's exporting, importing, through financial structures and through blockchain, digital enablers. This is where the game changer is. This is the future. The future isn't just doing a small bit of, replacing some financial contracts and calling it fintech. We will never chase and beat the game, which is happening in those that are taking the lead in fintech. Because unfortunately, Islamic finance has always been playing catch up. And in people who do catch up will never able to compete. This isn't just about survival, it's about competitiveness. And for that, if you look at the intra-OIC trade in health, in health tourism, in food and agriculture, in sports, if you like, all of these areas, we can enable that through Islamic finance structures, through digital offerings, and through Sharia law. That combination will give us a USP. We've created that in Kazakhstan. I sit on just like in OIC, there is a Islamic Development Bank group looks after the banking side of it. The OIC entity, which is for food security, is the Islamic Organization for Food Security. Their mandate is to look after the 57 OIC countries for food safety, food security. Imagine if we could use Islamic fintech-based model, the tech digital side, plus the financial, sukuk, banking, insurance, to do all of that. This is where the game changer is for me. And I think we want to look at that. I want to help with that. And we're doing a lot of trade with many countries. Very happy to work with Labuan because obviously I sit on the AIFC as a Chief Islamic Finance Officer, which, like Ms. Farah mentioned, AIFC, so there's financial centers in the world, and legally you can call them one of two types. You're either an enclave or you're a club. An enclave is where you're actually restricted to their geography. So if you're a member in DIFC, you have to be in the territory of DIFC. Whereas Labuan or AIFC is more about being a member of the club, which doesn't have specific geographic boundaries. This helps actually for all of our, because your title about intercontinental bridges, this is where it comes useful. So there can be, agreements between Labuan and AIFC, between Turkey, what our brother Tariq is doing. We can create these bridges, use digital technology to enable that. I want to go into that in detail later on, maybe when we have Q&As and other things. But just to let you know, Islamic eco-fintech. Islamic for me means not just Sharia law, but everything that's legal. So whether that's jurisdictional law, regulatory frameworks, tax, accounting, corporate governance, all of that comes into the legal Islamic side. Then you have eco, that's the real economy. Fin, which is the financial aspects. And then tech. And tech eventually should be something like blockchain. Let me give you an idea that I'm working on right now, which is amazing. And it's nowhere in the world happening. Look at the food industry. From supplier to buyers. We don't have any platform, let's say like Bloomberg, which allows you to track and trace and have an interface, a food balance between buyers and sellers. Imagine if we had that Bloomberg equivalent, whether it's cloud-based technology or eventually blockchain-based technology, which allows that ability to interact. This is where the efficiency will come. If you look at the food industry, the top 100 companies in the world, none of them are from the OIC Muslim countries. We're always chasing the game. So, I'm happy to answer more questions and obviously get involved with the discussion. But that's for my 2 pence worth.
Got it. Thank you, Brother Shay. I'm really humbled listening to each and every one of you as you provided different insights on how do you interpret Islamic fintech, and fintech plays the role of bridging continents and countries. And to echo what Brother Shay mentioned about fintech being the enabler to the real economy, and taking what Ms. Farah said with regards to tech, somehow or other not respecting boundaries, and looking into technology itself as an infrastructure worldwide, with an exception of some underdeveloped markets. Largely, the reach of technologies have grown quite significantly. Loosely putting into the context of Islamic fintech, and I'm really aware right now of what Brother Shay said earlier with regards to interpretations of Islamic fintech. How do you view Islamic fintech plays a role in ensuring inclusivity among the ummah, the whole entire world, be it the underserved, be it the bottom 40s economy, be it the micro SMEs? Because right now, as we mentioned earlier, we spoke a lot about opportunities using technologies, blockchain, the distributed ledger technologies. But does it really reach the overall ummah and the whole entire Muslim populations and leveraging on technologies in really reaching out to the underserved community. Maybe I'll start with Pa Abdal, and given Indonesia has a large Muslims population, what's your view on this? And is it really catering to the tier 1 markets? And do you see this only reaching out to Muslim populations in Jakarta?
Okay. Actually, for Indonesia, for us, talking about fintech, we're not only talking about how we provide the capital, but we're talking about how technology can improve the transaction in the market. So we look at people now, they change the way how to buy transportation, buy food, do the payment for the zakat. So from that kind of things, we understand the number of gadget ownership in Indonesia now is become very huge, and we have a very big population. So I think the initiative to build the digital payment that can be used by all the society, not only for the middle market, but also can be we can use for the zakat distributions. So the digital now becomes very common in Indonesia. During the pandemic, zakat can be distributed using the technology. So people no need to queue the malls to receive in their account. They can use that to buy some food in the grocery store. So the use of the technology, I think, is very, very important. So that's why we want to link the important things, the transaction, the economy, what are the needs in the society, the needs for the market transactions, what we call the transportations, marketplace. And now, if you look at the Indonesian marketplace transaction improved very, very high. So everybody buy online. So we want Islamic finance also improve because of this condition. So that's why we need to provide the alternative for the Islamic financial through the technology, so they can choose the alternative product for the society.
Got it. Thank you so much, Pa Abdal. Taking from what you said with regards to utilizing the existing financial instruments like zakat and sadaqah and taking into a digital platform. Brother Sheikh, earlier you mentioned about Intercontinental, the existing usage of Islamic financial instruments, for example, and marrying it with technologies. And do you see, you mentioned about this implementations only happens within specific political or geographical regions. How do you see this? You probably would have an opportunity because you mentioned all these TAN and Kazakhstan and all the TAN countries in the world right now. Do you see that how there could be one regulated common marketplace, a common platform that can then really unite and have one single regulation to be able to facilitate this concept? In fact, there's a question from Mr. Burhan Ali in asking questions about are there currently any efforts to have to set up an Islamic common market?
Okay, I think the questions about standardization and harmonization have been flying around for a long time, whether that's in the regulatory space, licensing, whether it's in actual underlying legal contracts, whether it's Sharia law, because obviously people have problems with lack of standardization. I think the industry, Islamic finance industry, has come a long way in terms of standardization. We have many bodies that have done that, whether that's in Bahrain through IOFI, whether it's your Malaysia in terms of IFSB and other bodies. We've got a lot of basic standard contracts and templates. And if you look at it as lawyers, whenever there's Islamic finance deals happening around the world, whichever subsector of Islamic finance, they tend to have existing templates, legal contracts which are used. So that level of standardization has happened already. Harmonization, I think, will happen through intra-country, kind of body deals and treaties. And if, like me and Sister Miss Farah is talking about, if there are more bodies that join together, join hands, we can do that level of harmonization. But ultimately, I think whether we as bodies do it or don't do it, the digital world is going there, right? Because the blockchain, DLT technology will take you there. We will be left behind if we don't do that. And I think technology, the whole point is disintermediation. The whole point is to get rid of all the problems. So I think where we should look at, really, the focus should be, Hizam, respectfully, is each part of the 4 blocks I mentioned. So Islamic, eco, fintech, each aspect should use blockchain in itself. That will automatically create harmonization in the industry worldwide, right? So let's look at, say, digital. So if we have digital-based Sharia contracts, you won't need Sharia scholars except for very, very complex matters. If you have blockchain-based legal contracts, Law Society of England and Wales is looking at that, by the way, having contracts which are blockchain-based, you won't have any problems in harmonization or disharmonization or lack of harmonization. and same with financial structures. The problem will be the financial services industry will fight this, because obviously banks will be out of the game. And that's why some of the banks are jumping on the bandwagon, trying to actually join this, or maybe, if I'm trying to be a bit of a cynic here, is hijack this and probably derail the whole thing. Because remember, let's go back a few decades, 4 or 5 decades, and I'm just speaking out candidly here. The whole industry of Islamic industry started off with Islamic economics. It wasn't banking, but it's been hijacked, not in any kind of negative way, but it's been taken over by the financial service industry. If we're not careful, it could happen to tech as well, because those that have financial muscle will take over this space and kind of maneuver it in a way which serves their interest. So what you're talking about, your question to Abdul Ali Asar, the whole thing about the fact that will this help the lower segments of society? And that can only happen if we leave the technology space to itself. Because, people are doing P2P, B2B, all of this work is going on. And you can see wallet-based technology, even neobanks, which don't even need any apps. So you don't need any apps at all with neobanks. You can do banking through WhatsApp. Imagine that. This level of transformation that's happening. So I feel it's for us as an industry, Islamic finance industry, our countries, respective jurisdictions, do we want to be part of this? If not, we will be left behind. So we're not actually the ones that are going to be able to shake and change this. We need to be part of this, because this is where the future is going. If you look at your kids or generations which are coming through now, 5-year-olds have got mobiles. My younger daughter knows how to switch on and go on to the serve on things, she's a 4-year-old. Right, and that will shock you. So if you can see that this is where the world is going, financial inclusion, social impact, SRI, banking, intra-OIC trade, all of these concepts and ideas can really change everything. The time has come now, and I want to leave you with this final kind of understanding. We don't need to have that level of capital access to be able to compete with Coca-Cola, to be able to compete with the big giants. You can do that through all the efficiencies on this tech. And this is the opportunity for new financial centers like Turkey and Istanbul to really build this in their core from day one. As Ms. Farah has mentioned about Labuan, you don't want to learn later on. You want to learn from the mistakes of other financial centers and build it from the start. I'll stop with that.
Got it. Okay. It's interesting that you paint the view of what's going to happen in the future. You highlighted examples with a kid in being able to be a digitally native person in maneuvering technology and making it so seamless in an example that you mentioned about making payments via WhatsApp as an example. Which brings me to, I'm interested in the view of Dr. Tariq coming from the President's office. And how do you approach this? The opportunities and advantages that technology offers. Should there be any form of restrictions, and what type of regulation should be in place? It's a bit contrasting right now, as we are as Brother Shay Bilal Khan is asking for less regulated environment, but as a country, regulations plays an important role as well in protecting the financial sovereignty of the country. What's your view on that, Dr. Tariq? How much regulation should be in place? Can you unmute yourself, Dr. Tariq? Yeah.
Sorry. First of all, let me underline that in such a globalized world, no country alone can deal with or tackle the issues or prospective problems coming from fintech. So there needs to be a close cooperation between countries, but it does not mean a very restricted regulation. Look at Basel III after the global financial crisis. I mean, the global financial crisis mostly came from the irrespective behavior of the some financial giants or banking sector. I mean, they did not comply well with the regulations. And then Basel III came, tried to restrict some activities of the banking sector, such as very high, capital requirements. But over time, this is my personal view, by the way, this may also cause another kinds of problems for the banking sector because they have to comply with the capital requirements. So they may be reluctant to give funds to the real sector or to take part in more risky activities. This was a kind of side effect of protecting the whole system to prevent systematic risk. So the same can also happen in fintech in future, or even near future. I think regulation is needed for fintech because it can go anywhere. I mean, we cannot even imagine where we can end up with the fintech, with liquidity of funds, so intercontinental, inter-country connections. However, it may not be so restrictive because it will kill innovation. So one option could be to let the sector players design their own regulation, and given their needs, their requests from the policymakers to follow their requests. So, instead of a top-down approach, the regulation may be designed by the sector players by themselves. Then, of course, there can be some unimaginable requests, some other things. But in the end of the day, any regulation mainly embodied or formed by the system players will be more compliant prone for the players themselves. That is what I want to say for now.
Got it. Thank you, Dr. Tariq. A question for Farah. And this is from Ida Mok, who posted the questions on the question and answer column with regards to her observations on difficulties that already being faced by technology companies or finance services companies between a nascent fragmented space and regulations and compliance, which normally applies for only traditional offerings. And now we're talking about Islamic Fintech and how this another layer of Islamic compliance complicates this whole thing even more. What's your view? Will it complicate things further, or does it run in parallel somehow? And how does Labuan IFC assist? And now that you have 40 digital licenses given, that's a great indicator that you are embracing and you're adopting and promoting digital companies. But with this Islamic finance coming in and another layer of Islamic compliance, how complicated does it get?
But that's the beauty of Islamic Sharia principles, isn't it? It is, in a way, as a legal person, it's the company's option and choice. We have a Sharia Supervisory Council in Labuan FSA, and they are able to then declare if something is Sharia compliant or not. Having said that, there is nothing stopping digital Islamic, an IFS digital entity from getting Sharia validation from any other advisory firm. So because we're legally agnostic, right? The duty to be Sharia compliant rests with the legal person. Again, it is the beauty that being a wholesale intermediation center provides, right? The fact is, the onus as an adult, quote unquote, the onus is on you, on the entity, to ensure that their own principles of Sharia governance are adhered to. We're not here to slap on a particular thinking, Sharia interpretation. No, we would like a global standard. Yes, that is. It's something that we all, as Muslims, should strive to, because at the end of the day, this is the only thing that's holding us behind. I think the non-recognition of different principles. So that's one thing. The second thing is, how difficult is it to run Islamic finance? It's not, right? So how is it more difficult to run a digital operations? It's not. So if you combine the two, what difference does it make? For me, it's just like making a cupcake, right? If you can put jam in it or you can put chocolate chip in it, it doesn't matter. The fintech bit is the chocolate chip. The cupcake is still the same, right? So I don't like looking at things negatively, number one. Number two, I also believe that because the digital space is so open, the ethos and the philosophy is open, it really is going to be the game changer for the acceptability of Islamic finance. It's the other way around, in my mind, right? Because the personalities within digital and within fintech are neutral. They're not cliquish in box standard financial services terms. So I'm hoping that actually fintech will be what pushes Islamic finance to the fore.
Brother Hizam, do you mind me adding some comments?
Sure.
Because obviously I think it'd be more beneficial for the audience if it's interactive. And I want to continue with Ms. Farah's comments and also Dr. Tariq's. I look at regulation, Dr. Tariq, being a lawyer and a Sharia guy, as something which is similar to the way you deal with crime, right? And so let's look at international crime surveys. British crime surveys come out, statistics come out every year. Being a British guy, somebody from UK will tell you this. You can never, the more regulation, the more laws you pass, you cannot really control and deter that. You can't slap a hand with a 78 sentence and say it's about education. It's about character building. And the same applies to regulation. And I think you're right. You know, industries move sometimes from complete deregulation to over-regulation, and you're always shifting. What we need to do is educate. We need to educate all stakeholders in financial or real economy, whichever industry it is, about taking responsibility, about self-accountability. This is where the future is. And I think DLT will take you there. Same with Sharia law. I have a bit of a controversial view. And despite being a Sharia scholar, I think that the industry of Islamic finance in the last 40, 50 years has made an industry out of it, a money-making industry out of Sharia law itself, right? And I'm not a fan of having Sharia scholars who come in and have their own interpretations and change this. And there's almost what I like calling Sharia arbitrage. So you can play the game, who you go and get and whose opinion you get. It's a bit of a joke, to be honest with you, in the wider industry. Sharia law is about what Ms. Farah mentioned. It's the essence. It should be actually within the cupcake, right? So it shouldn't be something you need to laterally go and get it, Islamized. You need to go out there and get a blessing from some scholar. You need to have that ethics from day one. The problem has become today with Islamic finance, and this will probably go into Islamic fintech as well if we're not careful, is we go and structure something, whatever product it is, whether it's a legal product, whether it's actually the substance of some kind of a business out there, and we go to some Sharia scholar or some guy, and that's the same applies to lawyers and accountants and all kind of legal service providers, whether the Sharia, and they will look at it, put their own worth of interpretation based by certain benchmarks, slap a fee on that, and it's become a self-serving industry. I feel the basic tenets of Islam, which talk about transparency, integrity, sharing, those things about not cheating anyone, those things are there. That's already inherent. We should build that into the substance and then not worry about laterally Islamizing things, because this is where it becomes a different animal in its own self, and we're going to never be able to do any justice to that. This is where, sadly to say this is where, if you look at the Abrahamic faiths of Christianity and Judaism, they all have the same issue with interest, right? The word riba is not just Islamic word. In the Jewish language, it's ribbit. They also had a problem with interest not being allowed. Then they came to, playing with it and saying, well, up to 10% is okay. We might go the same way, because now if you look at some of our indices, they allow you 3% of benchmark, 4% this. It's not really acceptable, because, I think the time now is about digital services, accessibility, inclusion, social impact, SDGs, society, equality. This is what diversity, these are tenets which are already in Islam. The problem, the way Islam is being presented, and I'll just finish with this, sorry, is we look at law as something else, and we look at the actual substance as something else. Sharia by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was never designed that way. It was never about the businessmen were doing something else and then you had to go to the Prophet or to the companions and get the legalized from them. Actually, character was built. If you look at prayer, zakat, hajj, all of these things came in Medina. They did not come in Mecca. In Meccan life, Prophet's peace be upon him built the character of people, trustworthy people, honest people. Today, the biggest problem is the bankers are cheating the system. Yeah, you look at LIBOR fixing. So it doesn't matter which regulation we come out with. Same with Sharia and Islamic finance. It doesn't matter what we do today, if we don't change people as human beings, as minds, we're never going to change anything. It doesn't matter how much regulation or Sharia law or governance you bring in. Sorry for going overboard with that.
No, that's very, very insightful. Dr. Tariq, you want to add something to it, actually?
Just one, I am almost totally agree with dear Sheikh Bilal. Just one addition. To my understanding, Islamic finance, are almost all about rule compliance, not regulation compliance, okay? So it is about setting up the rules of the game, not, over-regulation, saying something for every action, putting some restrictions for every action. I think that is the gist of the regulation issue. What I meant, if the regulation or rules, more correct, the rules, comes from the players themselves, if they set up the rules of the game, it will create a more healthy and robust system.
I agree.
That is why I started my talk with the example from global financial crisis and Basel III. It is all about regulation, and we can see the side effects. Thank you.
Yeah, this is interesting insight. While it may have diverted a bit from the topic of intercontinental bridges that that countries need to build globally, I still want to touch on the topic of regulations, of compliance. Dr. Tariq and Brother Sheikh mentioned about the dependency or getting back to the fundamental of Islam, of having trustworthy education. And then coupled with technologies, we spoke a lot about blockchain and DLT, self-governed regulation. I think one of you mentioned about it earlier, about having less restrictive regulations to be promoting innovation. I want to link this to what we've discussed to questions that were posed by Brother Ashari. Who should be responsible? If everyone were to be trustworthy, if everyone were to be nice and be in compliance, then we shouldn't have any issues, right? But we're living in a real world. Who should be responsible for the integrity and security of digital architecture? I'm opening this to any one of you in answering these questions with regards to transparency and integrity. Should there be a policing policy, or should there be some form of monitoring police to go and track? And you mentioned about just now regulations, not just about slapping on wrists.
I don't mind kicking off if I have the blessing.
Sure.
I think it's a two-sided coin, right? And I agree with Dr. Tariq. You cannot just say that there's no regulation. I think the regulation or rules are, if there's two parties, there's a bilateral agreement, then the two parties will set the rules in terms of what they want in the contract. That's there. DLT and blockchain will allow you to disintermediate. Overall, there will always be some kind of oversight. right? And that will depend on the level of compliance, lack of compliance, the flavor of the month, how the trends are in the industry in that particular decade, that year. We cannot fix something in stone now, but the oversight body, which could be continental, intercontinental, depends on how things transgress and progress in the future. But I think what I'm talking about, yes, you're talking about the real world, but brother Hizam, in Umar bin Abdul Aziz's time, people did not know who to give zakat to. Don't tell me there was no poverty then. There was no crime. This is when you build characters and human beings. We have a cheating system today. Why do you have lawyers? You want to go to lawyers so they can skirt around the laws. You want to go to bankers and accountants so they can give you some way of cheating how to pay taxes. We have a system. Crime pays today. Crime pays, and it keeps the system going. We need to build good human beings, really, who are because ultimately we are going to suffer, our children are going to suffer, their generation is going to suffer. So I'm not saying we don't have any oversight or policing or any regulatory bodies. Don't get me wrong. I agree with what Ms. Farah and Dr. Tariq mentioned. But I also believe that corporate greed has got us where we are today. All these problems are, look, simply, the Silicon Valley people, yes, they're coming out with a lot of innovation, disruption, but it's the same companies that are actually tapping your phones and issues happening with Jeff Bezos and what happened with him. All of this is public knowledge. It's the same banks that talk about issues, whether it's Barclays Bank or Lloyds or Standard Chartered, and then they get penalized for 300 million fine for doing something. So we don't have good conduct. We don't have stewardship. We came from a model of shareholder, stakeholder. Now we need stewardship. Stewardship is where the future, and you have a stewardship code in the UK and elsewhere in the world. I think this is work in progress. We will never have a finished answer. As long as the heart is clean, the mind is right, the business is there, and as Dr. Tariq mentioned, you talk with each other, you set the rules of the games. There's always oversight. Ms. Farah will tell you, I will tell you as a regulator, as a lawyer, that you always need some kind of oversight. But it's a bit of the both. But let's be careful about this. There's no way that we can fix all the problems for now or the future. We'll have to work on it. But I think we work on the person. You see, let me look at this. Let's look at one aspect. Corporate law over the last 200 years, commercial law, corporate law, has come up with something called corporate entity, which means that I can borrow money from anywhere, put it on the corporate entity, do an insolvency and get away with it. Isn't that what's mentioned about Donald Trump, that he's done 13,000 insolvencies in the world? Isn't this the precedent? So there's something wrong with our legal system. There's something wrong with human beings. We are from the university days, we are telling our kids, this is the pyramid. The pyramid is not happiness at the top of the apex. The pyramid is not about sharing and what you're talking about, intercontinental bridges. It's about making the most money. So you will transgress and trample over everybody's rights and cheat the system. We need to change this pyramid. I'm not against making money, or against the idea of having bilateral trade or innovation or disruption or whatever else you want to call it. But we don't today. I'm sorry to say this. I've traveled the world. I sit on many boards around the world. You can't imagine. I'm advisor to 5 heads of states. I can tell you from my personal experience that we are in a system today, or systems, which allow you to do all of this funky crime. You can call it insider dealing, you can call it whatever it is. And unfortunately, if you don't deal with the root cause, it's like you go to a dentist, right? If you don't do the root canal treatment, you can just take the treatment from the top. That's not going to change the enamel of the tooth. You need the root canal treatment. And there's something really deeper problematic here.
Thank you, Brother Shane. I can't help it to look at Ms. Farah's face when you mentioned about inverting the pyramid. As a regulator for Labuan IBFC, of course, one of your objectives is to help the desire of many companies to be making profit. Right? How do you put the views of creating a trustworthy culture, getting back to basic, everyone being nice, into the context of capitalism?
Well, always been a capitalist. I started my life as a stockbroker. So that takes a lot, right? But I think the era of golden gecko is done. Okay, there's just too much. The issue of equality and equity has come to the fore. and I think it's great. I think it's about time, and I digress a little bit into the issue of taxation. And there's a reason for that. Taxation now is no longer about paying the least amount of tax. Okay? Taxation now is about paying a fair amount of tax. And it's the same eventually, I hope, for our children's sake. I have a 9-year-old, that eventually it will be about what is fair profit. It's not about making a gazillion amount of money. It is about being fair and taking pride in that. And I know it's a bit oxymoronic to have a lady who works for so-called offshore centers saying stuff like this. I go out there and I say things like, I'm into inclusion. I think that's the beauty that I'm hoping that Labuan can play a part in, is the issue of inclusion. Next to Africa, Asia is the closest you're going to get where the disparity between the crazy rich Asians and very poor people is the largest. And I think this is where DLT and technology will come to the fore, and the ethics of Islamic finance and the principles will support it. And I think at the end of the day, there will be a minimum level of regulation. And that minimum regulation will be reinforced by the fact that Astana, Istanbul, Qatar, Labuan, Malaysia will come together and agree on something that we all will then carry, right? But then at the end of the day, inshallah. But at the end of the day, it is an issue of that legal entity. And to say to echo what Sheikh has been saying, it is about your niat, your hope and your dreams and your commitment to God, right? And that nobody can regulate.
Yeah.
Right. So we can regulate the DLT. That's fine. We can regulate solvency ratios. We can regulate banking. We can regulate all that, but you cannot regulate principle. And all of us within this business of FSI, financial services, have to understand that there is a moral duty and accept it and embrace it.
Yep, and this is where I guess self-governed regulation comes into play in looking into ethics and values, and doesn't necessarily for us to need to have an ethical Sharia compliance advisors to be in the oversight committee. Yeah, I do not know whether the organizer is giving us extra time, and this is an interesting discussions right now. If I were to be looking at the itinerary, we are at least 15 minutes beyond time right now. Maybe we'll do a bit of a roll call, and we'll start with Pa Abdal. And I know that Brother Sabri is going to come later on, sooner or later. If you want to do a bit of a overview, a summary of your as a wrap up to today's discussion, and then we'll go one by one after this. We'll start with Pa Abdal.
Brother Nur Hizam, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Mansi from Elmangos. I hope you're well. This is an excellent session.
Okay.
And I think everybody's enjoying the session. Hence, it took a bit of, it went beyond the time, but please, you can wrap up in like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
Since it's
okay. I do have a meeting in 20 minutes time, actually.
Okay.
All right.
I think everybody's enjoying the session. Thank you.
It is. Okay, Pa Abdal, if you want to do a quick wrap up, and we'll go in sequence after this.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Nur Hizam. I think I want to back to the topic, building the intercontinental bridge between the fintech across the country, across the continent. When we developed the Islamic digital economy in Indonesia, we start things how to digitalize the economic transactions. So I think that's very important. So everybody try to digitalize the business process. So, and then the fintech will come later after the economy already in the digital condition. So if we want to build a relationship among the other countries across countries, across the continents, we want to start the collaborations, not only for the capital, but the collaborations need to build from the bottom layer of the economy itself. When we look at, for example, when we want to develop how we distribute the charity, the donation, the zakat, So we need to transform the digital process in the zakat distributions in the country. So let's work together. So then, and after that, we will get the many data. You can do the artificial intelligence to look at the condition of the country, between the one country and the other country. And then from that, we can move to the collaborations, the next, how to link the transactions, how to move the capital, to share the distributions of the word from other country to other country. I think that's the key that we want to build together, not only Indonesia, but with our neighbor, with our all the Islamic country, and even not only for the Islamic country, but also for all around the world, to build the Islamic economy in the world. Thank you, Brother Hizam.
Thank you, Pak Abdul. Brother Ayman, actually, you seem to be having some difficulties connecting. Our apologies for that. We would love to hear some news from you, actually.
I can see you all, but for some reason my camera doesn't seem to be working.
We can hear you loud and clear. Do you want to share some parting messages?
Yeah, sure. Basically, ICD has 119 financial institutions in 55 member countries, through which we have a platform now created. And with time, we're hoping we'll be able to connect all of those financial institutions and start putting on those platforms asset management products, capabilities of doing transfers between those countries much easier, communicating with each other, because obviously all of them are Sharia compliant institutions. And with time also have all of them, because some of these financial institutions have already very good fintech capabilities and have been doing very good in enablers and inclusion of people in their countries. So I look forward to see ICD become a platform to service more and more throughout our member countries, and all of you that are speakers are in the member countries that we serve. And we're proudly and honored to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I can assent to that, actually. Malaysia has been working with ICD quite significantly.
Yes, definitely. Well, Malaysia is considered a center of excellence for Islamic Development Bank, and ICD has an office within the Islamic Development Bank office there. And we definitely serving Malaysia, and Malaysia is considered my second home.
We look forward to welcome you back after the current pandemic.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Dr. Tariq, any last view or insight from you?
Sure, of course. I want to focus on two things very shortly. First one is, a solved answer, implicitly solved answer in these, talks in these organizations is whether Islamic fintech or fintech can be a mainstream, mode of finance. Honestly, in 2008, Islamic finance industry missed a great opportunity. It could be a more mainstream, but we have another opportunity, especially in the post-pandemic period. Remember, last year's World Economic Forum was focused on stakeholder capitalism. This year, they will focus on great resets. So the capitalism and financial system is going to somewhere else. Many people have seen the fact that the current system cannot go, will not take us to a good place. So some new proposal will follow. And I think the notion of risk sharing and fintech can have the potential to be the key words of the near future. So Islamic finance industry should benefit from this opportunity. What is required? We should deliver our message, to the masses well. We should come up with compelling propositions and appropriate products, while truly remaining true to Sharia. Second one is Islamic banking will still be the most important part of Islamic financial system. But their current business model is not, totally compliant with fintech, Islamic fintech. One reason is the problems in their liquidity management. I mean, if we go deeper to the problem, if we look at the underlying drivers, liquidity management, especially cross-border liquidity management, is quite important. One solution still, comes from the fintech world. What about, establishing an Islamic mega bank based on securitization of assets, tokenization of assets in different parts of the world, and connecting, these securitized or tokenized assets through blockchain technology. So it can change the, structure of Islamic banking, which will automatically affect the future of fintech, I guess. These are the two, items I want to touch. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Tariq. All right, we'll move over to Brother Sheikh. We'll have the lady to do a final wrap up. Brother Sheikh, some parting messages from you.
Thank you very much. Well, actually, I would echo the same sentiments that my fellow panelists have mentioned so far. Brother Ayman Sijini, Dr. Tariq, and Brother Afdal, all of them have mentioned and very eloquently advocated their points. I would say, there's two things that are important here. Number one is education, right? And everywhere around the world, people are talking about financial inclusion and getting the kids to know about this from day one. I feel we should talk about financial ethics from day one. Primary school kids should know about ethics and responsibilities and good governance and good behavior and good consumerism and as fair profit as Ms. Farah mentions, not profiteering. All of these tenets should be taught from day one, not just about having a bank account and how you can make money and having a big car and a big house, but all about this social impact and responsible financing and responsible equity, all of these things. Very important. Education is very important, and this should be a golden thread that runs throughout your entire life cycle of education, from day one till the day you graduate from university. There should be a running module or something, always a compulsory module, so you come out with good human beings. It's not just somebody who has GCSEs and A-levels and degrees and is a doctor and a professor, and who just looks at that's why we talk about Islamic finance, the form. There's no substance. Issues like this. Number two, I would like to follow on what Dr. Tariq mentioned about having a mega bank. I think this is a fantastic idea in terms of using the digital platform, having the token assets and all of those. But I would extend it slightly to have it respected to kind of main economy. So you have a mega agri bank which looks at digital tokens, and so that brings you, because we have a huge potential in our 57 countries on agri food. If you look at how much Turkey is dealing with, it's a gateway. Turkey is a gateway with not just in terms of, the fact that Bosphorus Sea from Mediterranean to Black Sea, how the trade routes are. They're not capitalizing what they have. Imagine if we can link all of that, food and trade, plus having a mega bank with all the digital assets. It will be amazing, right? So don't just have a bank and assets, digital assets, but have a real economy there. And similarly with healthcare. Now people go from Middle East, GCC, affluent people, when they have a health issue, they'll go to US and UK. Why do we have that? I mean, we should have healthcare tourism with digital assets in our own countries. So that's another thing that I would really talk about. And I think the final thing I want to say, which is very important, is we need to go back to basics and look at what will touch society at the bottom, grassroots. I'll give you one example. Brazil was winning a lot of the World Cup in football, soccer, right? And Germany was thinking and scratching his head, what do we do? Germans are now really good at everything. They've won the Champions League in Europe. They've won at the national. And the reason why they did this is if you go across to Germany today, every single school has its own, from grassroots schooling. Football is in the blood, is in the DNA. We need to do that. Go to the grassroots and bring champions from our school age kids.
Got it.
Really, They are techno savvy as much as you and I are. right? And they have the ability, and I think we can have a much balanced and moderate society where, there is more closer connectivity. And that's the message that you want to build from this platform, building intercontinental bridges, connectivity at the micro level, human level, individual level, and at the kind of macro level between countries and companies.
Got it. Thank you so much, Brother Shay, actually. Ms. Farah.
There's not much left for me to say, except to go back to the title of the panel and to humbly request cooperation between Turkey, Astana, maybe some other centers in the Middle East, for us to come together.
Jakarta, Indonesia, yeah?
Yes, of course, Indonesia, for us to come together, right? And have a mutual recognition of some sort. For Islamic, maybe first digital, and then from there, we can create a very clear road. So the players and potential license holders understand that when they come to us, they are opening themselves up to all these markets. So I would really, really like to take this conversation offline and then offer this opportunity. And maybe next year, when we come back to IFW 2021, we can say that we've done it.
Wonderful. And that is a challenge that all of us should be responsible in getting it implemented. And I'm sure that Elmangos would then be able to help us in terms of facilitating it. And with that, I would like to thank each and every one of you. And I wish that these discussions can continue. My apologies to audiences who have raised questions and we can't be answering all of them. I believe that Elmangos Ventures would then be able to help to assist as well. So again, thank you so much. There has been an interesting discussion, and I look forward for our interactions in the future. Over to you, Brother Umar. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Brother Nur Hizam as the moderator, chairperson of this Jumpstart, and all the other esteemed panel members. This session reminds me of the phrase "time flies when you're having fun." So really, for such a serious topic, there was so much insight there. It was a serious topic, but an important topic. And I thank all of you for your time and your contribution on behalf of the organizers, as well as all the delegates who join us from around the world. My name is Umar Munshi. I'm I'm the co-chair together with Brother Mansi from Elmangos. I'm from ETHIS and the Islamic Fintech Alliance, here to wrap up the the first session, and to introduce the second session. We will be back in 2.5 hours at 8 p.m. Malaysia time for our second session. And before I go to that second session, just wanted to touch on some of the key takeaways or parting shots from the last session, where we had an incredible idea of an Islamic mega bank and direct calls for greater cooperation and collaboration between the different countries that were represented today, and also the wider community. And in my honest opinion, if we can get this moving fast, whether it is a specific project or general collaborative efforts, then really this will make a huge difference in the scaling up of the industry for Islamic fintech. So again, thank you all the esteemed speakers, panelists, roundtable session participants. Why we call it a roundtable jumpstart or a jumpstart session is because it's meant to trigger and catalyze things to happen. So inshallah, let's all make dua that we can all be more united and more together in Islamic fintech and uplifting humanity, inshallah. All right. So next session at 8 p.m., just very quickly, we have two very critical sessions, and one touches on the future of fintech in general, which is the rise of TechFin, which is different from fintech. TechFin is where big technology companies move into fintech. So will that be a good thing? Is that a good thing? Will it come in and dominate and create something different or something less good? or will there be increased opportunities for everybody and for Islamic fintech in particular to realize its potential to do good? So that's an interesting session. We have people from speakers and panelists from around the world. Oh, sorry, it's a debate. Yeah, it's a debate, meaning we'll have two sides being presented, one side for TechFin and one side for FinTech. We have individuals from startups, successful startups in Malaysia, also representation from PayPal, Turkey, and the UK. And immediately after that, 8:55, we have role of Sharia in Islamic fintech's future. So is Sharia going to be front and center, a driver, an enabler, a value, unique value proposition for Islamic fintech, or does it have a supplementary role? Right? This is a debate that's going to be very interesting. I think it's more of a panel session, and we have Sharia experts as well as industry experts joining us. Yeah, so see you for the next session. If you do not have your tickets, do register for them. And also for the next few days, tomorrow we have the theme of investing. And the following day, we have the theme FinTech for Financial Inclusion. Tickets are all quite full, but I believe there's still some space left. Yesterday was fully taken up. And for the next few days, I believe for most of the sessions, you should be able to get your ticket if you don't have it yet. All right, so with that, thank you again to everybody, to all the esteemed delegates, speakers, panelists. Alhamdulillah, some of you also, my personal thanks, I know you as well. And for those that we don't yet know, inshallah, from here, we can do more together with Islamic Fintech Alliance, together with the infrastructure and ecosystem support from Malaysia, Turkey, Kazakhstan, Indonesia, and I hope I did not forget other countries. So thank you so much, everybody, and see you in 2.5 hours.
Inshallah.
Pleasure.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.